forget to do it. But yeah, if you have like, at any point, if you have a desire to use this for anything, like even sometimes I have my team take these and slice them up and turn them into like little IGTVs or reels, even now that the algorithm is supporting reels. So I'll send you the recording, or even just send me an email or poke me if you don't get it, because usually my team sends it within a couple days. If they don't, poke me and I'll get it to you, and then you have like full permission to like do whatever you want with it.
Thank you. Awesome.
You are welcome. And then let me just clear up your write-up, because you sent me that additional link and I was already farting around with my
No, go ahead.
farting around with my lights. So let me grab that. And that's the Eventbrite link. Beautiful. Okay. Because yeah, I definitely want to get that up in there. Ali online at, okay, I've got your Facebook link, your Instagram. And then, yeah, what I wanted to check with you really quickly just before I post this is just, so the reason, just for clarity, the reason the mental health journey really seems to be jumping out to me is because I think there's a lot of people in this container that will resonate with that. We did a self-pleasure journey challenge 2 weeks ago now, I think it wrapped up. Yeah, at the beginning of February it wrapped. And there seemed to be a lot of people that had, from what I could tell, like, you know, mental health stuff coming up, and that had gone through like severe bouts of depression or anxiety or PTSD. And like, I've been through that, but I have not been through it during my sexual journey. And so what I wanted to clarify with you, because it came up during the course, at the very beginning of the course, is A, that's why I'm asking about it. Because I think that'll be interesting to people to hear how that impacted. And B, I think it's going to be something that makes you stand out from anybody else that I interview, because you had that experience during the course container. So for people that resonates with, it will give you like a unique identifying factor, essentially.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Yep,
I would love to speak about that. Yeah. Yep.
I also wanted to make sure I asked before I like jumped down your throat. I'm like, so tell me about that time.
Tell me about that time you went into a private mental health facility. I call it my little holiday.
Your little holiday. Okay.
But I'll talk about it in the thing. But it was the best thing that happened.
Okay. And then the other question I have surrounding that before we like dive in, just to make sure we're both aligned, is how is it best for me to bring that up? Like, was there a certain trigger point that I can bring into conversation?
It all accumulated perfectly leading up to the start of the course. So I had been on my sexuality journey for several years prior, but never fully, and I'd unleashed, my pleasure in that, but never even, going into the full depths that I knew I could. And I'd been avoiding that work for a while. And then I had enrolled in the course and was waiting for that for months. And it was like the energy of everything just accumulated. And it just allowed me to just completely break away every bit of fucking identity that I was still holding on to, and shed all of that and do the fucking even deeper work. So it was, it was, that's how I see it. And my relationship being so amazing now that, I did manifest and call in the love of my life, and everything was just easy. So it was just like, the universe is going to hit you with, okay, this is now your time to go even deeper than ever before. Fucking break me down. And because I had been avoiding the sexuality work, I hadn't been doing it as to the extent that I'd wanted to, because I'd achieved the pleasure from it, which is what I talk about, but not really fully understanding the potency of what else could come from this, and sitting with my emotions and all of that. And so I just spewed it out onto everyone else and went into this very, very, very dark
as we tend to do as humans.
That's right.
Amazing. Okay. So as your write-up then, I've just added the gorgeous Ali joins us all the way from Australia. Ali has had a massive personal and sexual transformation over the last few years, including learning about how we avoid the work we need, healing mental health, calling in lifelong love, and becoming the woman untamed. Find Ali at, and then I have your 3 links, and then the in-person self-pleasure circle at the bottom.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, cool. What was the last thing? Yeah, I think you went to one of Vic's in-person self-pleasure circles, right? Like at the very beginning of your journey? Okay.
I was at her very first one.
Amazing.
And I went to several from there, and that's why I'm so passionate now. And I said to Vic, a while ago, I said, I need to carry this on in my own way and transmission, because it was such a powerful fucking thing for me on my journey that it just was never an option that as I progress in this, I need to bring my own to the world.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I think we'll start there. That way we know that we get that in, and then that will kind of segue us into your whole self-pleasure journey, whatever you want to share about the Institute, and then, whatever you want to share about mental health, and we'll just kind of ping pong back and forth, and we'll hit a natural conclusion sometime in the next 45 minutes, and we'll be good from there. Good? Okay. So let me do all the obnoxious tech stuff that is setting us up on Facebook. So this endpoint is depreciated and will not be accessible once, I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that means there's been a Facebook update, and yeah, like literally that's what my brain just did. You saw that so well. Like my brain was like, excuse me? This endpoint is depreciated and will not be accessible once the next graph API version is released. Please use the Lave. Okay, I feel like we can worry. That feels like a future stuff problem. I'm pretty sure.
That's not a present self problem. That's a future self problem.
That feels like a future self problem when I can have the capacity to dive into what that means from a tech perspective, which is not where my brain's functioning right now. So we're not going to worry about it. Okay, preparing live stream preview. Yeah, it should still work.
So if I have a look on here every so often, if there's comments, do you normally check comments and that? Because I've got
I will check them so that you can stay in flow. I will check
them.
Let me take this off speaker view. Let me put this on gallery. There we go. That's better. Yeah, I'll keep an eye open on them just so that you can stay in flow, and I can kind of like weave them in with the questions. And then you can definitely check them as well. The other thing I strongly encourage, I don't think Georgie did this, but or Lisa, actually, now that I think of it, strongly encourage you to be super active in the Facebook group, at least in that post. If there's more questions, like thank people for being there, like
100%.
Use it as if it's your group, right? Like engage with people, because like they've engaged with it because they want to hear your flavor. They don't want to hear from me. They hear from me all the fucking time, right? They're sick of hearing from me. So feel free to like, pop in there and yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Let me tag you. There's the write-up. There's your link for your self-pleasure. Okay. And then we have this beautiful waiting period where nobody's sure if we're live on Facebook or not. So there's always that first like 30 seconds because it says it's live on Facebook. The meeting is now streaming, but on my Facebook, it says it's not. Hopefully this becomes more. Are we live? Are we there? There we go. Got it. We are here. Beautiful. Okay.
Yay!
Yay! Welcome everybody from the Sex Lab. Thank you all for joining us on this lovely Tuesday, or if you are in Australia or the other side of the world, Wednesday morning / Tuesday evening for us. I'm joined today by the beautiful, radiant, and very energetic Ali, who joins us all the way from Australia and is a total firecracker. Ali, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor. It truly is. I was so excited. I was dropping the kids off at school. I'm like, I've got to get home for my interview. Got to get home for my interview with Steph. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you so much for joining us and sharing your energy with this container. I'm so excited to have you here because I feel like your journey has been such a unique one out of everyone that we've kind of witnessed in the Institute, both from where you started with your sexuality journey and from how your experience in the Institute went, and then now even what you're doing literally tomorrow. So I don't want to ruin the surprise, but like, let's start off with what was the very beginning of your sexuality journey? How did that land for you?
The very beginning of my sexuality journey was somehow stumbling across. So I had this knowing, you know, because I had low libido, struggled with pleasure, struggled with intimacy, but I had this knowing that there was more in me that craved that, and that there was this you know, beautiful sexual goddess inside me, but I couldn't access it. Somehow, not somehow, I believe the universe drew me to Vic, Victoria, obviously Redbard, the one who runs the institute that I've been studying in. Stumbled across her, and I was like, whoa, how the fuck, what is she talking about on Facebook? Who talks about this stuff? No one talks about this. So that was that part of me that was this conditioning around, no, we don't talk about that. And then the other part of it was like, yeah, yes, thank you for speaking up about this. And it fully gave me permission to start diving into this part of me that I knew I was longing to connect with. And that's why I'm so vocal now about my own truth. And I went to her very first self-pleasure circle in person I was at. It was just a tiny little group of us at her house down the coast. And I remember being so confronted there. And, you know, this liberated part of me was like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm here. I'm part of the liberation and all of this. But then this other part of me was so confronted and so nervous. I remember feeling sick to my stomach because I didn't, you know, I knew I wanted to expand and open up within me, but I was scared because I didn't know what to expect. And once I stepped in there, of course, you know, and with the women and the way that Vic held space, I knew I was safe. And this was a space to not go beyond anything that I wasn't ready for. It was a space for me to dive into me. And the way that Vic held that space for us and the women there was no ego, none of these sisterhood wounds of competition and all of that. It was just, we are there together. And it was still confronting. And then the next one, so I went to several in a row, and the very last one I went to was her biggest one, and I wrote a big blog piece on it. And it was so transformational and epic. And this is why I'm so passionate about now running my own. And I remember, so in the blog piece I wrote about the last one I went to, I was still at that one. I remember sitting in that room, and there was older women there, which I just adore, because, you know, we hold this stigma and conditioning that older women, aren't as liberated as the younger version. And there were these women that were far more, advanced in this work in themselves than me. And then when Vic started going into her own transmission, which was so beautiful to give us the permission to expand, I remember sitting in that class and still looking around thinking, feeling shame and embarrassment for them, going, they don't know what, to expect. Are they embarrassed? Are they whatever? And then I just sat with that, and I was like, this is my, still that old conditioning. And I looked around, and there was like, I don't even know, 20 or 30 women in the room, and everyone was just in awe of watching Vic and her own transmission. And this is why, this is a big part of what I do, is I put myself out there and in my transmission to essentially give permission to my women to show up in whatever is free for you. And it was just incredible. And I knew from, that day when I started feeling the pull, and I did one-on-one work with Vic as well. I was her very first client.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very first client. And I saw the magic in her in the beginning. There was, you know, and that's what my women are drawn to me. It's nothing about, you know, this, oh, I want to be her, I want to be her. It's that they see this magic, and I saw this magic in Vic that she was tapped into within herself. And it was like, I want to know how to access this. I want to know how to be fully alive and connected to my own expression, my own aliveness. And you know, over time I was like, this is, you know, the way that my life has transformed from doing this work. I want to share this with other women, and I want to be that light for them, not to be me, not because they want to be me, but because they see she, you know, has activated and is free in her aliveness, and I want that too. And I just want to, you know, show them how to awaken that within them. And yeah, so that's, oh, it's my passion. It's what lights me up. And I can I say it now?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no rules here. This is an open container.
So tomorrow evening, ladies, if you live in Brisbane, I am running my very first in-person self-pleasure circle. And this space, like I just said, this is, I understand that it's can be confronting and scary when you've got no fucking idea what to expect, but this is a safe space. This is for your own journey. There is nothing that you need to go beyond in this space than you are ready for. You know, you can stay fully clothed, you can be nude. Anything is welcome. It's about being present, fully present, dropping out of the mind into the body, teaching you to be present with what's alive in the body, your emotions on a somatic level. And then this is how we access, you know, the buzz of that aliveness, where our magic comes from, our true pleasure comes from, which is what I'm so passionate about, switching on that orgasmic pleasure potential. But this is a beautiful, sacred, safe space. And I would just love to invite any Brisbane women here to my first circle tomorrow evening. I'm so excited and so honored to share this work now with other women.
Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit jealous being nowhere near Brisbane. And like, luckily, I mean, I'm in Tulum and things aren't quite as locked up here as they are in most of North America, which is in various stages of lockdown still for the most part. But doing an in-person self-pleasure circle has been like on my to-do list since I started this work, which was like right around when COVID started. It's been about 1.5 years now. And man, I keep thinking like, don't worry, it's going to blow over. Like at the beginning, I was like, oh, COVID's going to be a small thing. I'll get to do one soon. Don't worry. And then now we are 18 months later and we're still kind of in it. So for people like myself who are living vicariously through your experience and your upcoming event, like, I'm just so fascinated to know, for somebody that had no idea, had never been in the sexuality space, like what goes through your mind when you step through the door of a like self-pleasure circle? If you can put yourself back to like, okay, like was your heart racing? You put your hand on the doorknob, you like turn the door. What was that experience like for you as you stepped into that new world?
My heart was racing. I remember sitting in the car before getting out the first time at the very first one, and I just sat in the car. I felt sick in my stomach. And I was so nervous, so fucking nervous, because I you know, what we associate with sexuality in this work, almost the conditioning of society, is a performance and a having to be something and this. Yep. So that's why there's kind of this fear of, oh, am I going to do it right? Am I going to be good enough? What do I have to do? What do I have to show? Whereas
is my orgasm going to be loud enough? Like,
that's
am I going to sound like I'm turned on enough?
Oh my God. And thank God you said that, because obviously I had struggled with inability to orgasm. That's what, you know, brought me there. So I do remember thinking, well, I can't, you know, and in the first one and the woman next to me who, you know, had an orgasm and pleasure, and I felt, is there something wrong with me, you know, still, because I can't, you know, experience this. And what I realized was that's not what this is about. You know, you expand and tap into your orgasmic potential when you learn to just be with yourself, and which is what I then committed to doing. But it's not about performance. It's not about, you know, how much you can, you know, none of that. And that all shed away quite quickly once, you know, I dropped into the space and understood that. But yeah, it was that. And I truly believe it comes from, you know, sex and pleasure and sexuality, you know, even though I show up as, you know, in my sexual essence, and I love that, I love being seen in that, that doesn't mean that that's what I believe sexuality and sexual essence is. It's whatever is right for you, whatever feels aligned. And yeah, I think at that point I had this thing conditioning in my head that if I don't show up in this particular way or perform correctly or have an orgasm, then I shouldn't be here, you know, whereas it was completely opposite. And this is what enabled me to open up to my, you know, multi-orgasmic pleasure potential, that I just did this work and committed to, I am here to be with me and my body. And the very last one, where there was a massive group of people at the very last one I went, in that room, there were women, you know, there were older women, there were women that had, you know, experienced sexual trauma. There were women like me who just were numb from their bodies. You know, there were women crying, screaming, women in orgasmic bliss. It was just this beautiful, there is nothing like the potency of you're being lifted on your journey into yourself, not just by your own presence, but everyone else and the energy of the sisters in the room. And it just accelerates your own, like everyone's focused on themselves, but the energy that we're sharing that fully holds and supports each other just allows you to go to a whole other level. And I remember I wrote in my blog, there was a point where I was lying on my back and my legs are in the air, and I was just rubbing my legs and stroking my legs and looking at my legs, and I started crying and sobbing. I'm like, what the fuck? Where is this coming from? And I had these words, and I wrote in my blog, I just started crying, saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for all the years that I hated you and you know, my thighs. I'm so sorry for all the years that I turned away from you and I disconnected from you. And it was just, and after that, I experienced beautiful pleasure and bliss from barely any touch of my yoni, pussy, whatever you want to call it, just from this overwhelming connection to myself that I had. And it was, whoa, okay, I'm starting to really get this now. I understand this. You know, I'm not sitting there trying to rub one out. I'm experiencing pleasure because I'm connecting to all of me. And it was just, whew. And this is what I want to share with other women, that, yeah, this is the safe space to connect to you on a level that, you know, unless you've you know, already been open to this work, you potentially have never done before. And I certainly hadn't. And I'd done years of mindset. You know, I was a women's mindset coach and I'd done inner work, but you know, nothing of this level, dumping into, you know, my own aliveness and eros and sexuality. That's a whole nother level. It's like integrating everything else that had come before that.
Amazing. And you really touched on what I think some people don't realize when they go on this journey, or even when they join just like the sex lab container that we're in, is they hear the word sex lab and they assume, okay, this is going to be some type of like online orgy, or it's going to be all about pleasure. We're not really sure. But they don't realize that like the reason we focus on pleasure is because focusing on that necessitates focusing on your body, which necessitates healing at a level that oftentimes people don't even know that they need to heal, right? Like you probably didn't consciously think, oh, today I'm going to heal my relationship with my thighs. But like that's what was blocking you from pleasure. And so that's what came through and that's what got to get released. And that's probably the thing that I love the most about this work, honestly, is that we get to be surprised by how deep we can heal and by what comes up. And then we get to see pleasure on the other side of it. So it's like a really positively reinforced experience.
100%. And because I was just seeking back then, you know, because I thought something was wrong with me, and I thought, oh, I'm just one of these women that can't have, you know, an orgasm without external massive clitoral vibration. And I thought there was something wrong with me. So all I understood and wanted to shift then was my pleasure. So if you had have told me, you know, this other stuff, come and do this, I would have been like, no, I just want to have a fucking orgasm. But it was my understanding, and this is why I speak to those women now who, yes, I can open you up to your orgasmic potential, but it comes from opening you up to all of you. and that's, yeah, I had no idea back then that that's what I needed to do. You know, I tried in vain for years to press on different points, try different techniques, all of this, and nothing worked, because I was just chasing this orgasm, when I realized this will come when you expand into the rest of you and you stop numbing and shutting yourself off from your emotions, your sensations, you know, all of that. And it's just incredible. Like, you know, all I wanted back then was to be orgasmic. And what I have received from this is far greater than I could have ever imagined. You know, it's just this, my whole life, you know, my life, my love, everything has just, it's just opened up with flow, because I'm coming from this place of aliveness, and I'm not always perfect. I went, you know, off for a bit and wasn't doing the work, which we'll talk about that. But when I come back to this and I come back to this aliveness, everything flows to me, and everything, you know, it's this innate wisdom of I know what to do, I know the next step, and it's just, it's magical. That's the only way to say it, is it's truly magical.
Yeah, it's like magical medicine. And I love how you commented on, like, you know, you tried pushing on all the points, because like the vision I see there is like, how many times have we opened a fucking Cosmopolitan magazine that's like 58 different ways to orgasm, and not a single one of those taught me, like, hey, to feel comfortable in my own skin, or to learn how to relax or surrender, or to stop drinking so much, maybe because it was numbing me out of my body. Like, you know, none of it. But like, this work is so much deeper. It's crazy. And you know, places like Cosmo, I feel like, are just doing sexuality such a disservice when they put all the focus on just like push the clitoris for 3 seconds and then like rub this part of the leg, and an orgasm will happen every time, except we all know that it doesn't actually work that way, right? So
no. And
I'm
even
glad that you commented on that.
Even when, because the only times that I could have an orgasm in my whole entire life was with a vibrator, like very intense vibration. But even then, because you're bypassing the emotions and everything with adrenaline. So it was this bam, orgasm, and then that's it. Whereas now, when you're actually expanding and you're allowing the orgasm to come from being present with the waves of the energy, everything is so much more pleasurable. You know, sex and everything, because you're not sitting there just focused on, I need this, I need this, I need this, boom, it's there, boom, done, gone. And that's what enables me to be this multi-orgasmic woman. Not because I, you know, it's simply because I've learned to be present with this, whatever arises. And sometimes in sex, that will be tears and sadness. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck? I'm one of these corny people that's crying during sex. What's going on? But because
society doesn't allow that, right? Society is like, no crying during sex. That's completely not permissible. How dare you?
But sometimes that happens with my amazing partner, and I allow it to come out without stories. I don't need to know where it's come from, but because I allow my expression to be fully permitted, then that's why I'm able to access these beautiful, delicious waves of pleasure now.
Amazing. And you kind of alluded to it. I don't want to tease people too much, but you alluded to what happens when you don't do the work, or what happens when you stop doing the work. And one thing that really struck me about Ali when she joined the Institute in the round, this round that's just graduating, is that she was super open, authentic, and honest about some of the transformation that she was going through at the very beginning of the journey, that to me just highlighted the potency of this work, especially as someone that was coming from having been a one-on-one client with Vic and having already gone through, you know, multiple self-pleasure circles. So there was already a bit of a foundation there. And then boom, you dropped into this container and had this like massive transformation in the first couple months. So wondering if you can kind of, I don't want to speak too much to it, but if you can share a little bit of what that journey felt like, because I think there's people in this container that will resonate a lot with it. And guys, if you have questions for, especially like for any of this, but please drop them in the comments, and Ali's going to answer them afterwards, or we'll even answer them live. But anyways, Ali, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I had been on the journey for, you know, a few years leading up to last year, but I had accessed, you know, from doing the connection with my work, I had access to my pleasure, and I was turned on to that. So I kind of left it a little bit, not fully, but I just didn't realize that the rest of the potential that was there, and I just let it kind of fall away, and I got stuck back in my head, and then with all of that. And last year, so I knew, you know, I was going to sign up to join the institute. There was just a no-brainer for me. It was that, and I knew that it was going to be deep. I couldn't understand how, you know, because I couldn't obviously see what other work was there, but I knew it was going to be deep. And the minute I signed up, way, you know, months and months before, I felt the energy shift, and things started shifting, and I was like, okay, what's going on? And then leading up to the very opening of the institute, I went into the worst depression of my life, incredible severe depression. And it had been coming and going in waves leading up to that. I had been avoiding doing the work. I just had let it go because I thought, you know, the institute's coming up, I can feel this pull, but I had avoided really connecting with myself to you know, any consistent degree. And my doctor kind of picked it up. He's amazing. And I said, no, I'm fine. And then it hit the point, like literally when the institute was starting, where I went and broke down at my doctor, and I said, it's a trigger warning here, but I said to him, you know, because I had thoughts of suicide previously, but I had always, you know, when I'd go in and out in those months, you know, I wouldn't do that to my children. I wouldn't leave them. And I broke down and cried to my doctor, and I said, I'm really scared. I don't trust myself. I don't have any control. And even speaking about it, it's like it was a whole different person. And so I went into a beautiful private health facility, not a psych ward or anything like this, is beautiful private health mental facility where you just get to focus on you. And it was at the same time that the course was starting, and the very first, I remember I don't know if it was the pre-work or week one or whatever, was about shedding the mask. And it was like, what the fuck? I was like, I don't have a mask. I'm me. I'm raw and authentic. And I realized, and it just accumulated and coincided with this really severe depression, the worst, darkest days of my life, that I was hiding in some way behind a mask and starting to disconnect again and numb from what was really going on. And I wasn't facing the pain inside, and it was coming out as the depression because I wasn't being with it, and I was projecting it onto the love of my life, who I look back now and it wasn't even me. Like I look back at texts, it wasn't you know, open nasty, but it was like emotional manipulation. And that's the only way I can say it. And I look back at the text and I was like, what the fuck? It was purely me not being with myself. And this is how depression, you know, manifests when we ignore, you know, these emotions and sensations, and they become so much greater and overwhelming, and we don't know how to deal with it, and it becomes this very, very dark place. But I'm so incredibly grateful for it, because it opened my eyes to it gave me the opportunity to go deeper than I had ever been before, to just shed away all that I had been hiding behind in this institute. And it was just it blew me away going into this institute in ways that I just didn't think was possible. But my severe depression was, I wouldn't change it for the world, because I think that was a real wake-up call to me to say, whoa, okay, come back.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
come back into the
in
body.
here.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And you know, 2020 for me was simultaneously the darkest times of my life and the greatest times of my life. And, you know, I am so grateful. I you know, had been wanting from the universe a deeper, to go even deeper, but I was resisting at some level. So the universe was like, well, here you fucking go. You're going to have no choice now. You're going to have no choice. We're sending you down, all the way down. And your only choice is to rebirth. And that's what this tattoo represents, is to rebirth back into you. So this is, you know, the self-pleasure, you know, modality and the work in the Institute. The pleasure is just one part of it. And like I said, I think I kind of, because I had accessed that and eventually switched that on, I just kind of, you know, just shut myself off again from the rest of it, not realizing the potency of the rest of this work and how deeply transformational and incredible it is. And now I you know, I was able to birth the full essence of me, you know, and it's beautiful. And I just, it gets me emotional in a really beautiful way.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you. And I think it's so interesting. You kind of mentioned that, like, sometimes we get caught up in asking the universe, like, hey, I want this thing. Hey, I want this thing. Hey, I want this thing. And we talked about it even when we were going through, we talk about shadow work a lot in the self-pleasure challenge that I just hosted as well, where, like, it's almost like if you were to think of a hot air balloon, where we're filling the hot air balloon with all this hot air, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's like trying to lift, but there's all these rocks in the basket. So it like literally can't go anywhere. And at some point it's like, listen, either the things are going to snap and you're literally going to rip in half, or you're going to have to dump some of these rocks. So we're going to save you from literally snapping in half because you're pushing so hard for this thing, but you haven't let go of stuff. And we're going to force you to let go of the shit that's getting in the way. And if we don't listen to that, sometimes it happens in what can feel at the time is a very unceremonious situation. But it's always for our best. Like, I call them tower moments. And for anyone that knows tarot will understand the reference there, but those, like, you get slapped in the face with the tower card by the universe every now and then, where the universe is like, listen, you want this thing, like, there's shit you gotta let go of, man. I want to give it to you, but you've got to, like, take it, you know, you've got to be willing to take that step. And if you're not going to do it, well, we're kind of going to make it so you have to.
I love that analogy of the hot air balloon. I love that. And that's exactly right. You know, I was trying, and it was a big ego. I had to get go of ego. So when I sat at the doctor's and I opened up to him and I said, I'm scared of myself right now. And he recommended a beautiful private health facility. And I looked at him and I was like, what? A psych ward? It's not the same as a psych ward. But I was like, no, that's not me. You know, I do the inner work. I've done the inner work and the mindset work. And I remember sitting there crying when I went and spoke to the nurses there. And it's beautiful. It's a voluntary, you know, it's whatever. But it was this ego of, what if people know that I've, you know, gone in here and I'm a failure and all of this? Whereas I was trying to achieve this next level, you know, expansion of myself. And here I was being thrust into the darkest time. And I was like, this isn't what I want. I want to expand and be a leader.
Yeah.
And
universe, I asked for gold bars, not shit. Come on, what's going on here? You got my order wrong, man. Take it back.
Yeah. And it was such a huge ego. I just sat there crying, going, I'm a failure. I'm a failure. Here I am wanting to step in and lead other women, and I'm a fucking failure. And it was a massive, massive journey for those first few days of accepting, no, I'm not a failure. This is my gift I was given to be able to step more into my own essence and to help other women. Because, you know, what I learned from this was the next level, deeper work, and not to avoid the work. To avoid the work, which I still do. Everyone does time to time. You know, we're humans. You know, we're not perfect, and the idea is not to be perfect, but to learn from these lessons and learn from these downfalls and go, okay. And that's what, after I had my big pity party for those first few days, I'm a failure, I give up. And, you know, it was awful. I make a joke of it now, but it was awful. But then I was like, what's the lesson here? Why is the universe giving me this? Why is it coinciding with, you know, the opening of this institute, which has been, you know, something I have been, you know, waiting for all year? Why has it coincided? And I was like, okay. And I truly believe, you know, the energy of leading up to that course was so potent that it was just shifting things to happen, to go, right, if you're going to get the most out of this course and step into this next level vision, we need to just fucking drop everything else. We need to strip you back. And strip me back it did. into a rocking in the corner kind of, pretty much, although in my bed, wouldn't get out of bed. But yeah, it was that was what was needed. And that was the potency of the energy of this course and this work. I truly believe that it enabled everything else to strip away that was not going to be in alignment with this vision of who I knew I was meant to be and who I am.
Yeah. And I love so much that, you know, the analogy, to go back a little bit, of the mask too, right? Like this work, this sexuality work, whether you're in the institute because you're learning to be a practitioner, whether you're just doing it personally, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's confronting, it's vulnerable. And like, the thing is, sometimes we don't even know we're holding a mask until it gets slapped off of our face. And this work often slaps it off your face for you like 12 times over sometimes, right?
Oh my God. And that's what, because when that first thing came up and the mask, and I was like, I don't hide behind a mask. You know, I'm so open, so raw and real. I don't hide behind a mask. So I completely thought, this isn't relevant to me. This topic isn't relevant to me. I don't hide behind a mask. And then it fucking slapped me in the fucking face, and the depression at the time. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I am this, you know, very energetic, bubbly soul, which is me. That's beautiful, and that will never change. But I realized that I was numbing and disconnecting from pain by reverting to that. So it wasn't because I saw a mask as being fake and inauthentic. And I was like, well, I'm not, you know, I'm raw and I'm real. But I realized it was a mask of me disconnecting from the emotions, the sensations, and putting on the energetic, bubbly self, which is still a version of me, but using that to disconnect. And then that's when it's like, well, hey, you're not going to listen to us. We're going to manifest as the severe depression, and you're going to have to fucking listen. And I did. So yeah, I'm truly grateful, and I will speak openly and honestly to anyone who has questions, like, you know, after this or anything. I'm so open for talking about this, because I'm so, you know, grateful for this journey and where it's taken me.
What I think is so beautiful about that is so interesting to see how like sexuality and mental health are two areas that like humanity as a whole still has a lot of shit bent out of shape about. We have a lot of stigma, and I'm going to assume probably in Australia it's similar, but here in North America, it's starting to get a little bit better now, like a little bit, but like, yeah, the idea of like going to a psych ward, like that would be really challenging for a lot of people. And the fact that you like willfully, intentionally, consciously chose that as the best decision for you and your children is like so incredible to me. Like that can't be discounted, that you were willing to do that, especially knowing the stigma that sits behind that. Then we add the stigma of being like quote unquote a sex worker, as in the sex space, not a actual sex worker, but there's that idea too though, right? Like technically we're all sex workers, but like we don't want to call ourselves that because there's stigma around that too. It's just, yeah.
But I don't know if I don't know what you guys have over there. And this is what I want to encourage people, because I didn't know these. So the facility I went into, I didn't even know existed. I only thought there was psych wards. So I don't know if you have these here. So the psych wards, I'm very grateful that I had private health cover, because the psych wards can be very, very confronting, because it's everyone and anyone in any kind of, you know, headspace, so you can be confronted with very whatever. Whereas the private mental health facility, it's just people that are struggling with severe depression, anxiety, all of this. So I don't know if do you guys have that there?
You know what? I'm not sure. Like, I personally haven't gone down that journey. I do know for sure that we have like hospital-based psych wards that you have to be admitted to basically against your will. We have those. I think everybody has those. And then I do know that we have like private rehab facilities because of my background with my ex-partner having severe addiction issues. So I'm very familiar with the rehab facilities that exist in North America. But as far as like a standard mental health ward, like I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that we have them, but I actually don't know that with any certainty. Like I've not looked at them myself.
I didn't even know, and it's 5 minutes away from my home. And
wow.
the thing that, yes, and it was beautiful. It's like a little holiday private room. But I truly believe, because I had seen psychologists and psychiatrists over the years, and the thing with sexuality work is, and this is where there's a massive disconnect with, talk-based therapy. Yes, that's brilliant. And, your cognitive understanding, is very much needed, but there's very much a disconnect then with what's going on in the body. And there was an incredible psychologist at my private mental health facility who was so interested in the work I was doing, and I was opening up, and she's like, this is what's needed. And, she spoke about the book, The Body Keeps Score, which is an incredible book by a psychiatrist who started making the link between, okay, talk therapy is one thing and very much needed, for active trauma and that kind of thing. But there's only so far that can take you when it comes, with what's going on in the body. So there's a beautiful, and I'm very lucky. So I had been kind of, in the months leading up to my downfall, I didn't want to see a psychologist or anything, because I'm like, I know the mental shit. I was in my ego though as well, but I was like, I know that. And that's not where my, although it was great learning and revisiting that back there, but I wanted the connection, of all of it. I knew that there was more that needed to happen to what was going on in here. And that was what was beautiful there, that, I had some psychologists that were amazing and really open to the work I was doing. So I'd go back into my room and I'd be on my computer doing my studies. But this work takes you to, what is actually happening in the body. And this is when you can learn to be with your emotions and sensations so they don't become so overwhelming and manifest as, anxiety and depression. You can learn that you are safe and they are just sensations, and you can be with this energy and communicate with your body how it needs to be communicated and listened to. And in doing so, this is where you access all the rest of it, your magic and your pleasure. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I think there needs to be that, more integration in the world of talk therapy and somatic processing. And I'm really excited when I meet, psychologists and that who, and my psychologist. And so I went into day program with her after I went out. And she actually got my information because she was like, I really, am open to this work and wanting, places to refer and talk, my people through.
Amazing.
On an energetic. I know. So I'm just so, I had shunned myself away from psychology and that, going, they're not, but there are some amazing psychologists and psychiatrists out there that are understanding the importance of doing the work somatically of what's going on here. And that's just really beautiful. So I think, everything is just perfect and divine timing, and that going into there at the same time as doing the sexuality work and going into the energetic. So I was processing it cognitively again, revisiting all that I, needed to revisit, but then going into my room and learning and doing the body and the self-connecting stuff. And I rose out of that into, yeah, it was like a rebirth. That's how I, the only way that I can say it. And I'm so grateful.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And one thing that I've noticed a lot of people are journeying right now, again, especially in North America, is if there are mental health issues or concerns, we're starting to lean towards depression or anxiety, especially with everything that's happening in the world right now, especially in North America. You know, there was a lot of stuff happening with like the transition of power in the US. And there's been a lot of like insanity happening for basically North America 2020, and everything was like really, really intense politically, societally, civilly. And so mental health is really on the forefront for a lot of people. And I think there's this backlash that's happening right now for people that they don't want to just see somebody that's going to just prescribe them a pill, right? They don't just want to get it covered up. They don't just want to be like, okay, well, here you're depressed. Here's this thing that's going to make you feel better, or just make you feel great, or you've got anxiety. Here's something that'll calm you down. It's like, but what's the deeper issue? And what I love personally about sexuality work, and I think that you're really like such a great exemplar of this, is that like coming back to the body, you don't need a pill anymore. And I'm not saying the pills are bad. Like I have ADHD and I did my Ritalin for 10 years and, you know, that was very needed. And now because I've done the body work, I don't need that anymore. And I'm actually more of myself as a result of it. And I think that can apply to PTSD, anxiety, depression, because all of it really is just a mismanagement and a misunderstanding of what the signals in your body are trying to tell you.
Absolutely. And I think if I had have known this stuff, you know, because I had a journey with, my journey's been huge, you know, and bulimia, drug abuse from a very young age, complete escapism from my body and numbing out because I was so you know, I hated myself I hated my body, everything. So I did everything to possibly, you know, disconnect and, you know, abuse drugs and went down a very, very dark path with that. And I just think if I had have known, but no, I'm not saying I wish, because my journey was exactly perfect as it was. But I just think if I had have known this stuff back then, whoa, how different it would have been. But again, I wouldn't have been ready to understand and take that on back then. But you just think everything then that I went through in my life, like I said, is perfect and has led me to who I am now, but came from a disconnect from myself and not knowing how to be with myself internally. And, you know, that showed up as the bulimia, the drug abuse, the depression. And all I focused on was, okay, well, because it was showing up as inability to orgasm. So I'm kind of grateful that that showed up, because that took me down this path, because I wouldn't have gone down this path of connecting to my body to heal the other stuff, because I didn't really, you know, I had moved through a lot of that stuff through mindset work, but I didn't really understand that there was more to do to go down in here. So the other symptom that was presenting was the inability to orgasm, and that's what took me into this work. But yeah, I didn't realize how potent this was for healing, you know, because all of it, it's all the same, you know, the inability to orgasm, the eating disorder, the drug abuse, all of that is from that disconnect within and not knowing how to be with ourselves, you know, internally and all of that, and connected to our own, you know, body and aliveness inside and sensations. And it all stems from the same thing, and lack of connection, you know?
Yeah. Disconnection from self, living in the head.
Yeah. Yes. Living in the head very much. And that's what, you know, last year starting to lead up to, because it was like, okay, I had, you know, already felt the energy shift of going into the institute, booking in months and months in advance, and then just kind of was like, yeah, avoiding the work, and was just more stuck up here. And I still, you know, I notice myself now, you know, when you get, like I said, we're human, we all do it, overthinking, and it's like, okay, take a deep breath. What's going on here? You know, okay, I've got some, you know, tension here. Let's breathe and let's be with this and let's move, rather than staying stuck up in the head, which just feeds this loop and round, and you wonder why. Of course you're going to, manifest depression and anxiety, because that's what you're creating. Whereas when you learn to be with it on a sensation level and learn how to move that energy, because that's, all emotions are. I'm sure your people know this quite well now, but that's all emotions are, is, the emotions are our way of, expressing it to someone else. I'm angry, I'm sad, whatever. But it's just a sensation in your body. It's just energy that wants to move. And when we allow that and open that communication with our body and allow that to be moved, as it needs to, then there's nothing there blocking us, from the rest of it, from the pleasure, or causing us to turn to other things to feel alive, like the drugs and the alcohol and all of that.
Yep. The toxic relationships, the codependency, right? Like shopaholic, like it doesn't even necessarily need to be drugs and alcohol, overeating or bulimia, one side or the other, right? We get the addiction or the allergy depending on what our mindset is at the time. But so potent. And I'm so grateful that you've shared so much of that, because I really truly believe that like that conversation needs to be something that people are more comfortable talking about. It needs to be something that we release the stigma on, and the best way to do that is to talk openly, freely, honestly. And I love the connection to how sexuality really kind of like lights a fire under that in like a healthy way, and really reconnects you with your body, brings you back. You guys have noticed the theme here is disconnection from self, and the main modality that Ali works through is that self-pleasure modality, right? So it's literally pulling you back into self, pulling you into your body. It's the exact opposite. So it's such a potent medicine for these types of situations.
It is. And that's how I see it as, now when I want to go, I'm too busy to do, my self-pleasure and connecting. I'm like, no, this is my medicine. I need to allow whatever needs to move, whether that's sadness, arousal, anger, whatever. This is my medicine to connect to this, because I know that if I disconnect, I'm disconnecting from me, and this needs to happen. And it's funny because it is like, I was just speaking to an older couple on the weekend that we met on a Valentine's Day cruise, and one of them, because we were talking about what we did for work, and it got to me and I was like, oh God, here we go. Because it's so hard to explain. It's so hard to explain, what you do without people thinking. And immediately one of the questions was, oh, so you teach people how to perform, like performance and have sex? I'm like, no, I teach people how to, drop back into their body. It's not about, but that's what people think, sexuality work is. I'm going to teach you how to, this technique and all this. No, It's about connecting to you. And that's the other thing, that I struggled with confidence in the bedroom my whole life. I would put on this seductress act, this mask, the dark femme in front of people, always luring the men in. But then in the bedroom, I was just shit scared, because I thought, I don't know how to perform. Am I doing this right? And now I am so confident with my partner, and everything in the bedroom, not because of any technique, but because of my ability to be present and allow that connection to myself and to flow between us. And I get it now. Whereas before it was like, okay, so, and I wrote a blog on, I would never go on top, and I never went on top during sex, for my whole life, because I was so nervous about performance. And I realized now it's not about that. It's about allowing that eros to flow between you. This is where the most ecstatic pleasure comes from. Presence and connection.
So beautiful. And I feel like that's such an amazing quote for us to like wrap up here with: presence and connection, and eros being like the foundational parts of your sexuality journey, regardless of whether that's with self, with partner, in a large group of people, doesn't matter. I feel like that is true no matter what. So with that, Ali, for people that have resonated with your story, that are excited to attend a live event, like where can they find you? Online, in real life, all the good stuff. Tell us how to connect with you.
So I do have a business page, but I don't tend to use that as much. come and follow me or friend me or follow me on my personal page or Instagram, Ali Gomulka. And of course, my Self-Pleasure Circle tomorrow night. I would just truly love to extend this invitation to women watching this, knowing that you are safe, you are held. This is about you building this connection and presence with you, and everything stems from that. And I got you. I got this space for you, and it's going to be magical. And I can promise that you will walk out of there just being blown away and tapped into a piece of you that you weren't when you walked in that door.
Beautiful. Live transformation. For anyone that had a crazy good transformation during the self-pleasure journey that we did, the self-pleasure challenge, guys, I can't even tell you how much more potent it is when you're in person. Like, entrainment is a thing. It's a hermetic principle. It's also a universal law. It's also now been proven scientifically that entrainment is a thing, and being in a space with a bunch of people that are all in their eros, whether that eros leads to crying or screaming or happiness or sadness, it doesn't matter. It's still eros, and that eros will lift you guys all up together. So if you were anywhere near the Brisbane area, guys, I would literally fly to go to this if they would let me in the country. So like, please go for me. Tell me how it is. And Ali, if they're watching this and they're like, shit, I missed it, or I can't come, like, I'm assuming you'll have more of these and people, you can talk to them on Instagram. Is that fair? Yeah.
Yeah, I will be running more in the future. Just stay connected with me on Insta and Facebook. And I post all the time, very openly, from my soul, from my womb, from my innate wisdom. So there's so much gold that you can learn from following me anyway. Or if you do want to do some one-on-one, potent work to help you drop into this, where you're guided into this space within you, then hit me up, slide into my DMs.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm sure we'll have some individuals in this container that your unique transmission and your unique story is really going to resonate with. So thank you, Ali, so much for being here. Guys, if you have any questions, Ali is in the Sex Lab container. So ask questions down below. Feel free to tag her, and she'll be all active up in there. And all of the links to access her are in the description of this video. Thank you guys all. Ali, thank you so much. And we'll see everybody on the next interview.
Thank you. Bye.